Charlie Kirk is an American conservative activist, author, and entrepreneur who is best known for founding the organization Turning Point USA in 2012. Now, under Charlie Kirk's leadership, Turning Point USA has grown to become one of the largest and most influential conservative organizations in the country. With a presence on over 3,500 college and high school campuses, students are encouraged to be leaders in their communities and educate others on American ideals in a really fun and compelling way. Charlie Kirk, welcome back to Better for America.
Thank you. Honored to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And one of the ways that Turning Point USA really fights back in schools and universities is by organizing and hosting speaking events, which include conservative thought leaders, politicians, media personalities. Can you share with our listeners a little bit about your campus leadership program and the huge growth that you're seeing at high schools across America?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we at Turning Point USA, we actually have more high school chapters than college chapters. We're very, very proud of that. We've worked very hard at it. And, at Turning Point USA, our vision is to make sure that your kids are going to live in a free society, that they're going to love America and to make kids love America. We're seeing an all-out assault from the cultural Marxists, from the radical left, to try to get kids to believe that America was founded on bad ideas and, awful precepts, and we need to change that. The government school system, the cartel, the teacher unions, they're doing such unbelievable damage. And so what we're doing at Turning Point USA is trying to start a national revival, one where we talk about the Declaration, the Constitution, the Federalist Papers, talk about the beauty of the American story, and then talk about what young people can do about it. And then, look, we're in the middle of, with all this trans insanity and all this nonsense that's happening in our country, young people are looking for eternal truths, and we're doing our best to give it to them at Turning Point USA.
And thank God you formed in 2012. Who would have thought in 2012 that we'd be where we are today? Your organization is so desperately needed. And there does seem to be a significant number of young people who are really attracted to conservative ideas, people who are looking for a counterbalance to what they really see as a dominant liberal narrative in many academic and cultural circles. Now, at a recent Turning Point USA event, conservative swimmer Riley Gaines was attacked twice by a man wearing a dress who accused her of being a transphobe. How did we get to this point of political extremism? And without any real meaningful prosecution here, how do we stop these kinds of senseless attacks?
Well, it's happening far too often, unfortunately. The trans movement, if you will, is completely out of control. And they have been told they're victims, which they're not, which gives them a license to be victimizers, which they should not be, against other people. The violence, the intimidation, they basically kidnapped Riley Gaines at our Turning Point USA event at San Francisco State University. And the media just conveniently moved on when a trans shooter killed 6 people in Nashville at the Christian school. There was another person in Colorado Springs that was trans that was actually thwarted, praise God. So we're seeing this happen across the board. We got here largely because we've allowed these idea pathogens, these social contagions, to infect our society. And, we used to live under this premise of live and let live, and, you might think that you're in another body or whatever, and now it's in our kids, and now we've allowed these people who obviously have deep-seated mental problems to now terrorize the rest of us, and that's too bad. And so we're not going to put up with it. We're going to remain peaceful, but we're also not going to allow our kids to be intimidated, to be punched, to be assaulted. I went to University of California, Davis, and I was lied about by the head of the administrator there, and the people came with weapons, and they were, bashing down windows and trying to get into the event. And so we remain the ambassadors and the champions of free speech, while the other side resorts to physical intimidation, violence, kidnapping, arson, and sometimes even murder.
Wow. I mean, there really does seem to be this growing justification for moral relativism, really believing that there are no objective, moral values or standards. And I think that leads to a lack of ethical grounding. We recently actually interviewed Riley Gaines, and she further reiterated this lack of ethics even at the NCAA. Take a listen to this short clip.
In our locker room setting, Leah Thomas was fully intact with male genitalia, and the NCAA, they enabled this. They allowed these female athletes who they're supposed to be protecting. They put us in this position where we're undressing in front of a male. And so females should not ever lose the ability to consent in an area where they're undressing. Women should never have to compare themselves physically and athletically to men. Obviously, we're equal men and women, but we're not the same.
Charlie, what do you think of the NCAA's decision here?
Well, it's obviously wrong, but it's not a surprise. I mean, adults across the society are pandering to deranged men who think they're women, and they're allowing girls to be assaulted and taken advantage of, or, even, to allow to be exposed. And it's just an indictment of the entire cultural rot that's taken over society. And, truth is necessary for a society to be able to continue. But if you send your kid to college, or have sent your kid to college, which I do not recommend, they will be taught that there's no such thing as any sort of objective truth, any sort of objective meaning. It's a school of thought called deconstructionism, postmodernism. And for a lot of adults, a lot of baby boomers, they say, what the heck happened? And I say, you weren't paying attention. We tried to warn you guys. I was laughed at 10 years ago when I said these college campuses were going to take over the country. I said these ideas are so venomous, so poisonous, so terrible. And some of the very people that are laughing at me, they now have kids that hate them. So, but we're trying to fix that. But look, it's really too bad because, the greatest generation had the baby boomers, and the baby boomers raised the generation that is now filled with these awful idea pathogens. And even, just recently, we're seeing hundreds of millions of dollars still given to these universities. That's where this all comes from. The NCAA is just an extension of the universities, right? They're not like they're not some sort of outside body. They represent the same sort of university structure that does not believe that men and women have any differences. The idea that men give birth is taught in almost every single college across the country.
Unbelievable. It really is this incredible evil effort to tear down the biological family and replace it with an ideological family. And I think that there are so many threats to young people, so many that are undermining individual freedom, constitutional values, personal responsibility. We see these threats taking so many forms, but this assault on the most basic of biology and fairness is so overt. It is so shocking that it's happening. Do you think that there's a segment of younger people, I'm sure you see them, this younger generation, that can be rescued from what I'd call the, psychological attacks?
Oh, yeah, and we're doing our best, but, we need help from the baby boomers, and we're getting some of it, but, still baby boomers are giving money to their colleges. That's not helpful. I hear from baby boomers a lot. They say, and I get a lot of criticism when I say this. I say, why aren't you guys fighting harder? Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand why you guys are putting up with this. And they say, oh, this is just a moment in time. We're going to come back to the middle. I think that's silly. Like, I don't think we've never seen anything like this. And let me be clear, there's some amazing baby boomers that have been so generous and so great to us. But if we're honest, the vast majority of baby boomers have not, they could have took a stand against the NCAA. Like, where was it? Like, what did they do? Nothing. And I guess we're going to have to do it ourselves, and we will.
Well, I mean, my father, Dan Weber, he's gone now, gone from this world, but he was a great champion of really calling out the liberal AARP. Today, they are promoting drag queen friendly, as family friendly shows. And so our members here at AMAC, over 2 million strong, they stand with you and we applaud you because this is just terrible. Something's got to be done. It starts in the family. Grandparents as well can get involved. There's so much that we can do. Now, another example of what I call informational or psychological attacks on our youth and Americans at large is really the breakdown of civics. And then we see this rogue DA like Alvin Bragg in New York, who's setting a dangerous precedent, criminalizing a political opponent. I think that creates a loss of faith in our justice system. Charlie, how long do you believe Bragg can continue with this charade, and why aren't conservative DAs using the evidence that they have to go after Biden and Democrats who continue to lie before Congress?
That's a great question. Yeah, Republicans are a bunch of gutless wonders. That's my first answer. Why have we not seen a criminal indictment of BLM for their money laundering, stealing charitable funds, buying mansions with charitable funds? Nothing. So Republicans are a waste of time. I have called on Attorney General after Attorney General and DA, and they're afraid. They're afraid of what's going to happen to them, which is a lot of bad articles, a lot of mean names. They'll be called a lot of mean things. And that obviously intimidates them. But yeah, Alvin Bragg's going to take this thing all the way through. We'll see if we still have a semblance of a justice system. I don't think we do. Look, the betting odds are that Donald Trump will be convicted. And then they're going to try to convict him in Georgia, and they'll try to convict him at the Department of Justice. So, and then we're going to have a lot of op-eds written by Republicans. But I've not seen any evidence that the Republican Party or the Republican DAs are ready to do what's necessary, which is we have to start to go after the Democrat Party and the Democrat elite and the cartel of these criminals, of people like BLM or people that like Antifa, or how about an investigation into George Soros? That would be nice. Or an investigation into Mark Zuckerberg. But I guess we're just going to sit idly by while Donald Trump gets criminalized. It's so outrageous. It's so terrible. You're exactly right to pinpoint it. I think it's so smart. And it's a very disappointing and depressing thing to say, but the country I grew up in is no longer there, so we're going to have to build something new. And I don't see the outrage I thought I would. Most people are like, oh, that's bad. Yeah.
Until it hits their front doorstep and invades right inside their home, their living room, it seems, sadly, people need to be impacted directly. But we're going to continue sounding the alarm and bringing great folks like you onto the show.
I love
because
AMAC.
This is important work that you're doing. But, speaking on how big really government has grown and the power of government, the aftermath of 9/11 led to the passage of the Patriot Act. Now, that today, I think, is widely seen as really an overreach of government power to surveil its citizens. But some people are concerned that this recently proposed Restrict Act could lead to a similar situation. Now, the Restrict Act is intended to take aim at really censoring social media apps that are influenced by the Chinese, like TikTok. But many say that this act, the Restrict Act, may include too many negative implications. We see both bipartisan support, opposition to the bill. Opposition in Congress ranges from Rand Paul to AOC. But Charlie, you have recently spoken on this issue. Could you share with our listeners why this bill is concerning and why you think that this just is not about going after TikTok?
Sure. Yeah, and I love AMAC for educating, your members for what's really going on. I think the Restrict Act is awful. It should be defeated immediately. It's a mass censorship bill being promoted largely by uniparty Republicans and Democrats to try and destroy any semblance of free speech we have. So, for example, I use Telegram a lot. Okay, so Telegram is an online messaging platform. It's the best out there. I've used them all. I've used Signal. I've used, WhatsApp. So Telegram was founded by a Russian. According to this bill, the United States government could shut down Telegram. Most conservatives use Telegram. And that's what Republicans are promoting. According to the original draft of the bill, they could go after people using VPNs, virtual private networks, to be able to encrypt their data. I mean, the ramifications here is Patriot Act 2.0. The only reason our country is not as totalitarian as they would like it is because we're able to have Rumble, and we have Telegram, and we have Getter, and we have Truth Social. Getter, for example, has a Chinese investor. So they could shut down Getter. That's where we're at. And the Republican Party seems to be really enthusiastic about this. 20 co-sponsors, right? I had one of them on my show, and I was not impressed by his arguments. I don't like TikTok. I think TikTok is digital heroin. I think it's awful. I think it's one of the worst things that's happening to our country. But instead of having a bill really precisely written to ban TikTok, this is a massive overreach that's going to create a whole new government leviathan, give the money to the unelected Secretary of Commerce to be able to be jury, judge, and executioner of what social media companies should be able to exist in our country. That's a really bad idea. So the Restrict Act, I'm vehemently opposed.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're speaking out on this. We are concerned here, too, at AMAC. We think that any bill should be definitely written in a very narrow, very clear, very concise. We don't need to give more power to government to go after American people who deserve privacy. We see so much unraveling, and I thank you so much for taking the time to really help us through that. Thank you so much, Charlie, for speaking with me today. Really appreciate everything you're doing. Your insights into the state of free speech, intellectual diversity on college campuses. as well as the potential threats on our youth, are incredibly valuable. So I want people to go to your website, Turning Point USA. I'm encouraging our listeners donate there because what you're doing is so incredible and it's needed. Our members here at AMAC stand in full support of protecting our innocent youth, and we'll be doing a lot more work to that end. So thank you. We appreciate your work.
I love AMAC. Thank you so much. God bless you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a great day. God bless you.
Thanks.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can listen to more just like it. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, or by downloading the AMAC app. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Until next time, I'm Rebecca Weber. This is your podcast, Better for America. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful evening.